Hello everyone and welcome to Sinful Gaming. I hope you're all doing well, I hope you're all staying safe, and most of all, I hope you're all fighting that war against the grey. Today's video, we're going to talk about Damage GT. This is a Warhammer 40k GT here in Adelaide, South Australia, around 60-ish players that I went to this past weekend. And in this video, I want to talk about how everything sort of went, what happened at the event, and my overall thoughts of my first Warhammer 40k GT. Of 9th edition since like 6th or 7th edition. First real time playing a lot of 40k, other than the games you've seen on the channel. I've not played an awful lot of 40k, so this was definitely a learning experience playing at such a high level of the game. So, first of all, we'll talk about, I guess, my list and what we talked about. And this is just going to be me chatting to the screen, so go grab yourself some paintbrushes or something to do while you're listening to this. This is just going to be a long-winded spiel or conversation from me about how the course of the event went. So, my list at the start, I took Eldari. For those who've seen the army, I've been working on an all-the-way Eldari army. Eldari Ulthuan was the main sort of focal point behind this. I then took a second Farseer with the Ghost Helm of something. The all-the-way artifact, as well as the Fate Reader command trait. And then I also took an Autark as another HQ option in there as well, with a Warp Jump Generator and the Reaper Launcher. We then took for our troops just 2 units of 5 Rangers and 10 Guardians, so some minimum stuff there. I then had 2 units of 10 Dire Avengers, one with Shredding Fire. That Exarch had a Twin-Link Shuriken Catapult, or Twin Shuriken Catapults, and the other one had the Dire Sword in there, and they had Stand Firm as the Exarch power on them. Our other elite option was a Wraithlord with the Glaive, Star Cannon, and a Flamer and Shuriken Catapult. As you can see, most of this is a bit of an eclectic mix. This is stuff I just simply had laying about. And then moving on to Fast Attack, I took 10 Warp Spiders with Web of Deceit, that once per game free teleport after they do a shooting attack. We then also had a single Viper in there as well with Star Cannon and 3 Shroud Runners. There were no heavy support options actually in the army. I don't actually own any of the Eldar heavy support. And then we took 2 Wave Serpents on there as well with Shuriken Cannons, one with Bright Lance and one with Star Cannons on the top of them, and a flyer in the Wraith Fighter. What is it called? I forget the name of it. Hemlock Wraith Fighter, that's the one. And that was the list. Now, like I said, this was a bit of an eclectic list. This was just a simple Eldari stuff that I had available to me. I had a small bunch I've got on second-hand market, and then I had the dual box set that came with the Chaos, split that with a mate of mine, had that on top, and then I had an Eldrad model on and a Farseer on top of that. Overall, I think the list did well, and we'll talk a little bit about it more after we talk through the course of the event. And so, before the event, I live up in the northern suburbs of Adelaide. This event was about an hour and a bit away from me. Not having access to a car, I decided to book a hotel right near it. Saved me a ton of time getting to the event. And this definitely was a fantastic idea. If you're having to travel across the city, I strongly recommend this. This was great. This saved me so much time, made my life so much better. I got there the night before the event. Slept, I only had to wake up. I was that close to the event. I only had to wake up like 15 minutes before the event, which was really fun. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. Like, it was a cheap, shitty hotel. There's no doubt about it. Let's talk a little review on the hotel itself. The soap that he gave was a terrible little tiny bar soap, and by God, that thing was hard as all heck. There was no shampoo provided in the thing, and my tea and coffee had no sugar on it as well. But apparently a mate that stayed down at one of the other rooms, apparently he had sugar in his, so a little bit sucky. I didn't have any sugar with my coffees or my cup of teas, but it was alright. Lucky one of them was like a coffee blend, so which had, it was a little bit sweeter than normal. I like sugar in my coffee. It is what it is. And so, yeah, the hotel, it was fine. The mattress was a little bit rough, but overall, like, the heating system in there was nice. It was able to keep temp well. We had Fox Sports for free, which was pretty cool, so got home after the events and could watch some sport. On the night before the event, I could watch the sport as well, which was cool. And yeah, the shower was pretty good anyway, despite having not had access. Luckily, there was an on the run just across the road, went up and picked some stuff, and that was fine, covered that sort of issue. But let's talk the first day of the event. And first of all, I would be remiss to mention why this is called the Damage GT. Unfortunately, last year, the community here in South Australia lost a beloved member of their local community called Mr. Andrew Damage Penn. He passed away suddenly. And this event was something that he was a big focal point of previously, called the SAGT for 40k. And so was a really big thing for everyone decided in the community to rename. I have no personal experience with Andrew Penn, but for those who knew him, say he was an absolutely lovely dude, and just an absolute pillar of the community, an absolute top table player that would, absolutely demolish you with a smile on his face, is the stories I've heard of this man. And to all friends and family of Mr. Andrew Penn, I offer my sincerest condolences, and this was a fantastic event in his honour. Now, brekkie was pretty cool on day one. We got bacon egg rolls, which was really nice, and there was also something really cool from the TO in that Beers for Damage, his favourite beer, was on sale, and all proceeds for that went to giving his kids a nice night out, which I thought was a really nice little thing for us, the community, to give back to the family of someone who meant something quite a bit to a lot of the community here in South Australia and the Warhammer 40k scene. And so brekkie was there. We got our pairings. I'd learned the night before I was going to be playing a Tyrannid list. This Tyrannid list had 2 squads of warriors with bone swords and venom cannons, a Horus Specs, a Tervagon, a couple of lictors, a couple of pyrovores, a couple of what are they called? The giant spore drop pods, and a couple of units, a unit of Gene Stealers and a unit of Gaunts. What ended up happening in this game ended up being a loss for my first game, but I learned a ton. I had a really fun opponent, Matthew Scott, I believe your name is. You were an absolutely fantastic opponent, taking me through, really, doing his utmost, even though we were playing a competitive game, to make sure everything was known. We made sure, both players were playing in the right spirit. He was fantastic to play, absolutely beat me hands down. But, I think the thing I like about 40k at the minute is that everything can kill everything. So regardless, secondaries definitely win the game. That's something I've learned over the course of the entire event. But I definitely got to kill stuff in the games that I lost, which was fun. It's fun. Even though I lost the games, I got to kill stuff. My Dire Avengers got a shot off, removed a unit of Gaunts, I removed his Tervagon, I removed a unit of Warriors off the table, I removed the Gene Stealers off the table, and some other stuff died as well. I would say this is probably the game where I killed the least, but I did learn a ton of different things here. There weren't really too many memorable moments for the Eldar on this side of the game, maybe except for my unit of Dire Avengers getting off, the perfect sort of shredding fire, and taking out a unit of Gaunts and turning and taking out the Tervagon with the double shot in that game. It's probably the biggest moment for me. Which was good. I learned a lot from this first game, learned a lot about sort of screening in 40k and doing some stuff. And we went into lunch. Lunch was, for day one, a American barbecue platter. So we had mac and cheese on there, coleslaw, some pickled chilies, along with some pulled beef brisket and a piece of beef brisket, pulled pork and a piece of beef brisket with a nice little black bun. That was really nice. Solid. I like when food at events is this nice sit-down food. It gets everyone talking. You got you sort of hanging out with people, meeting new people, talking with them. I cannot express enough how much I think this is really good at events, having that nice sit-down lunch, where everyone can sit down, sort of mingle, chat, talk about how the first games went. You get to really meet a lot of people and learn about more people in your local communities on the times when you end up doing this. After that, though, I had my game 2, and I was playing Grey Knights. I was a little bit worried because Grey Knights are complete anti-psycho, and I'm playing Ulthway, which are, all about my psychers. In this game, I ended up getting the win, and a couple of big points really sort of hinged on this. 2 things on this really sort of swung the game. First of all was my Hamlet Wraith Fighter coming in and pretty much reducing one of the Dreadnoughts of the 3 I was playing to a couple of wounds, and then my Warp Sputters jumped up on the other flank and did the same to another one. It looked like there was a lot more on the table for the Grey Knights than there actually was, but with those Dreadnoughts so badly damaged, and I was playing very reserved in this game, They sort of had to move across the table. I was continuously stopping his Gate of Infinity teleport, and just not allowing him to teleport into my lines with any of his own psychic powers. And so the game really hinged when my Bright Lance Totting Wave Serpent killed 2 Paladins out of the 5 turn 1, and then killed another 2 the turn after, and then Khaldor Drago charged the Wave Serpent. I used my Fate Dice to stop stuff, and on some other targets, and then my Wave Serpent completely just rolled hot on its saves the 6-ups. Really, really solid stuff, and ended up with that. Drago failed to kill it. I then shot him in the face with Bright Lances. He failed both his saves against the 2 Bright Lances, and then re-rolled one of them, failed it again, and took 12 damage right to the face. Khaldor Drago was taken off the table, and at that point, the same turn, the Autarch killed the Dreadnought, killed 3 squads of Purifiers in the same round. The other Dreadnought went down, and the Paladins all went down as well. So pretty much everything but a lone Lord Dreadnought at the back of the table went down on that turn, and that one ended up being probably my most convincing win of the event. And so I ended up being 1-1, which was great. My whole thing at this entire event was trying to get a single win, and I ended up getting it in my second game, which I was really, really thrilled with. After that, we went into Game 3, and I was playing Mark with his Sisters of Battle. They were really coolly painted. A nice contrast and speed paint mix. They looked really, really super clean. Some nice basing, really brought the army together. And these bright pink Sisters of Battle was really, really cool. And so his army for the Sisters of Battle, he had 2 units of the heavy support Sisters Retributors, I think they're called. A couple of squads of Sisters Repentia, along with a Sister Superior, the Repentia Superior. He had the Dominus, I think she's called, the new lady character with the 2 hands like this, and she's holding a weapon down in front of her. He had Morven Val, along with her just doing a whole bunch of stuff, couple of rhinos in there as well. They pretty much hit my lines. I did play way too offensive in this one. After playing much more reserved in the game before, I played extremely offensive in this line. And that sort of led to my doom, playing way too far up against such a heavy combat army. I did manage to do a decent bit of damage, but I certainly had not learnt from some mistakes I played against the Tyranids of maybe being a little bit too aggressive with an army that probably doesn't want to be too overly aggressive. I did end up killing quite a bit of these Sisters of Battle, but in the end, this one was, I would say, probably a pretty resounding defeat for me. I did score more points. I scored a lot more secondaries than I did in my first game against the Tyranids with my loss, which I thought was a positive sort of change. I really went about trying to get more of my secondaries in that. And I certainly did with that, which was cool. So definitely improved on that mark. But at the end of day 1, I was 1 and 2, which was still for me a extremely positive result for the event. I expected 1 win, and so I had 1, and I still had day 2 to go, which I was extremely happy for. The end of the day went up, and I was supposed to be playing some Sisters of Battle, and then we went into the night. So went back to my hotel, went and got some food for myself, which was pretty cool, and made the mistake of staying up to watch the football. And for anyone who watches soccer, for anyone who watches soccer, I go for Chelsea, and that was not a easy game to sit through this past weekend. Red card within 28 minutes for Chelsea, but somehow we ended up getting a win. So I went from an absolute terrible mood going, this is how my weekend's going to be, to quite a positive mood at the end of that game, after everything sort of went within the game. Now, that was pretty much it. Went to bed after that. Woke up the next day and got to the event. We had breakfast again. Nice bacon and egg rolls. Had a couple of energy drinks. At this point, I checked out of my hotel, so took my suitcase with me as well, which actually I think made it a lot easier to carry my stuff around. Just get my clothes in the bottom of it and just put my stuff on top in the suitcase. That made stuff so much easier than the little tiddly bag I've got. And we went into the round 4, but at that point I learned it was a 6-game tournament. Had to message the wife saying, "Oh, I'm not going to be home when I said I'm going to be home. There's an extra round." Normally with Age of Sigmar, there's only 5 rounds and 6 rounds for a 40k GT. There was a lot of people sort of hitting, definitely was a much more bigger of a slog. But also, unfortunately, my opponent didn't come the next game, so I ended up playing some Harlequins first round, which was really cool. I was actually pretty happy to play the Harlequins instead of playing another sister battle army straight after the other. For me, this was great because I got to play over the course of the event. I did not play the same army more than once, which was really fun. And those two sisters armies were very, very similar. And so I was pretty happy to not have to play another sisters army, though apparently, according to my mate Stu, who also went to the event, the opponent was really fun. But I ended up playing Harlequins, and that was an absolute bloodbath, as you could expect. Bunch of strength 4 guns, bunch of toughness 3 models, mortal wounds being shot out from both players. This was an absolute bloodbath. Both of us had absolutely nothing. We were finishing the game running 2 or 3 models around the table. For me, the big turning point was getting an Eldritch Storm off, getting it off pretty much as perfect as you could imagine in the mantle of his army, and doing a ton of mortal wounds to Harlequins, which was pretty cool to have a look at. And then really some other sort of key moments were definitely one turn he really struggled to kill anything, and my warp spiders popping out and definitely scoring some extra points with Web of Deceit was massive. It's the first time I'd actually remembered to use Web of Deceit for the event, which was really cool. I learned, you have to remember that thing because that can be guaranteed points on engage on all fronts and stuff like that. But from that was really, really good. A good, solid game. Really, really enjoyed it. Harlequins hit like a truck. I've got my own Harlequins. Maybe I will build up an army of them myself. But that was game 4. There's not really an awful lot. I would say my favourite 2 games are actually the next 2 games of the event. And funnily enough, I lost both of them. But they had some very memorable moments in them, which was pretty cool. Stay hydrated, everyone. Something important across the course of any event you go to. Water was fantastic and is a massive help. And so, game 5, I ended up playing someone called Jack from the Brisbane Low Rollers. They came down from Brisbane. He was a really, really good player, but also a really fun opponent to play. It's that weird mix of someone who is going to absolutely pants you in an event, but he had like an entire narrative for his army as well, and that is, a player I love that's so good at the game, but also knows his narrative, knows his lore, which really, Australia, at the beginning of the game, I'm like, this is going to be a fun game, regardless of how this goes. Like, you could just tell by the opponent and how they sort of approached the game that this was going to be fun. And so he was playing Dark Angels. He had 2 of the Nephilim fighters. He had a big unit of Black Knights with Corvus Hammers, some other couple of smaller units of bikers. He then had Samael, 2 land speeder characters, and then 2 of the so 2 of the Dark Angel special plasma land speeders, and then a couple of the land speeder, and then one of the land speeders from the Primaris land speeder with the big missile launchers, and it was pretty cool. This game went about that he charged one of my flanks pretty heavily with the knights and all of that. He pretty much wiped out the Dire Avengers on that flank by the end of turn 2. However, Eldrad stood there, and Eldrad just would not die. Eldrad was in combat with a Dark Angels army from turn 1 to turn 5 that game, and he killed lots. I was so impressed with how much he was having to put into Eldrad. Eldrad was holding an entire flank of his army by himself, and in the end, probably one of the coolest parts of the game was Eldrad actually killed a plane in combat. Because he got greedy, he tried to charge the plane to do the last wound on Eldrad. Eldrad passed everything, failed everything with the plane. Next turn, Eldrad then smacked the plane out the sky with the Staff of Ulthamar, which was really, really cool. I think this was one of my most memorable moments of the event. However, the next memorable moment happened as he's swung this land speeder around. It's failed to kill and do much damage against my thing. And I've shot some stuff and it's got like 1 wound remaining. And the final wound is done to this other vehicle as the Farseer throws his singing spear at a plane and shoots the plane out the sky with a singing spear. I thought it was, just the thematics of it. You can imagine this Farseer getting a run up and throwing his spear all Night King style and taking out the plane. I thought it was a ton of fun. Ended up pretty much almost tabling this entire Dark Angels army. Samael was the only model I think left on the table at the end for the Dark Angels. He did beat me in points by a good 40, but I felt pretty good because I did manage to kill quite a bit of his Dark Angels army from this one, which I thought was really cool. Just being able to do so much damage, play around with the game. I learned a ton of things. He was definitely, sort of helping and talking through some sort of decisions and stuff like that. Was a really good opponent to play and learn a lot off of. That took me into my game 6, where I was 2 and 3 currently, potentially trying to go for the break, and unfortunately I didn't get my even result. Ended up going 2-4 in the end. But I played a Spatial Dreadnought army, and I was really worried because I didn't have a lot of anti-tank in the army. Turns out, didn't need it. Because in one turn, Eldrad decided to kill 3 Dreadnoughts. Eldrad was amazing in this game. In one turn, he smited 1 Dreadnought off. He then Mind Ward the character Dreadnought off. And he then combated another Dreadnought in the face. And this was really, really cool stuff. Other than that, Dire Avengers and Warp Spiders definitely proved their worth again, and playing a lot more reserved against the combat army, this definitely helped me score points. This was probably my closest loss out of all of them. It was like 90 to 70, so pretty cool stuff for me. He was playing, Space Wolves with a ton of Dreadnoughts, 2 Contemptors that were just shooty with lots of Volkite. He then had Bjorn, Murderfang, and I think 3 other Dreadnoughts, all with the the combat builds, the axes and the shields, and then had a couple of units of squads, Fenrisian and Iron Priest and Jarl Stormcaller. Jarl was actually taken out by some. Jarl was killed by the Wraithlords shooting him, and his Iron Priest was taken out by the Autarch in combat, actually, which was pretty cool. Actually, I think that's the other way around. Wraithlord killed the Iron Priest, Autarch went and killed Jarl in combat. Eldrad, once again, was just massive in this game for me. He is so much fun to play. Like, he's, a lot better in combat than you'd expect. 3 attacks when he is 2s and 2s most of the time. Doing mortal wounds, doing, the Ren 2 damage 2 is pretty sweet. I really enjoyed using Eldrad, and I'll probably continue using him. But yeah, this was a close game. I ended up taking everything off except for, I think... Oh, and he had one of the big gun bust tanks from the Space Marines as well. Ended up taking everything off except Bjorn and the gun bust. So killed quite a few Dreadnoughts, which I was not expecting to do. It really did look up against it, and then one turn I really did push him, and he luckily had a really good turn after that, because if he failed to have that good turn after I removed like 4 Dreadnoughts in a turn, it definitely would have been stuff against him in the game. But as I said, I lost that one. But Eldrad, once again, Eldrad killed a tank, 3 Dreadnoughts in 2 games, plus a bunch of other stuff with his psychic powers. For me, he was absolutely instrumental in the games. And so, we went in. Let's talk about how the event and how I sort of thought about my first 40k event in the end. I really enjoyed it. I've heard so many people complain that they think 40k is in a bad place. 40k is, not a balanced game, but I took by far an unprepared Eldar list. I barely knew half the rules of the army, let alone the game, at the start of the event, and I did pretty well. I went 2-4. I learned a bunch of stuff. That was the most important thing for me, was realizing mistakes I made. Definitely, build your list more towards secondaries. Like I said, though, it's an army that I had the models I had. And so I definitely start to look at my secondaries more as I start to build the army a lot more. But there were definitely things that did really well. I really enjoyed the using of the warp spiders. They were a massive threat. They either took their opponent so much time to consider about, or they just wiped stuff off the table. Wave Serpents were absolutely immense in getting stuff to where it was, and Dire Avengers performed extremely well. Eldrad was insane. He was so good throughout the course of the event. Like, his just psychic potential on that guy is massive. The Hemlock Ray Fighter was a little bit disappointing, I will say. It was cool to use a flyer and learn how to use flyer rules, but definitely a little bit disappointing. Same with the Wraith Lord. I'm not overly convinced on the Wraith Lord. You know, I definitely want to upgrade those Guardians to something more useful. Same with the Rangers. I definitely want to upgrade sort of my troops choices to something more useful in the army. Shroud Runners were another thing I was really happy with. I really like their ability to sort of turn off charges. The Scatterlasers definitely were a big thing in the army. They were something a lot of people feared, which was really, really cool. If I was going to rebuild the army, I'd definitely start thinking of adding more Farseers in to really get Scry Futures happening a lot more, or probably some Warlocks in there. But all in all, like, I really enjoyed my time at the event. I thought everything was really well run. I had a ton of fun playing a bunch of different armies. Like I said, the 2 Space Marine armies was pretty much as close as I got to playing the same army, but one was all Dreadnoughts, one was Dark Angels specific units. So, you know, they were as far apart in the Space Marine army as you could possibly imagine, which was great. I played 6 different armies. I learned a ton of different things about the game. I played some really good players and some really great opponents. And I had an absolute blast in doing so. I'd strongly recommend, you know, anyone go try a tournament. I've been so hesitant on 40k tournaments because there are people that go, oh, there's so many that guys at events and all that sort of stuff, but completely not the case. I played so many great people at that event. Met other great people as well. My friends that went both said they had a really good time at the event as well. And I'll definitely be back for another 40k event. Looking to get more 40k on the channel, which is something I'll be really strongly sort of pressing to get more 40k happening on a regular basis for everyone on the channel. But for me, that's my experience at the event. It's been a little long-winded rant, or, you know, chat with me about the course of the event. I hope everyone else who went really enjoyed themselves and had a great time. I know I did. Thank you to Simon and everyone else involved in running the event. It was absolutely fantastic. Thank you to everyone who sponsored the event, from Dragon's Lair, St. Mary's and other places as well, including the food guys who came out and did the food. That was awesome. Really, really fun stuff. But that's it from me. There's not much more to say. Thank you all for watching. That's the end of the video, everyone. Thank you all for watching. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Also, drop us a comment down below in the comments section and let us know what you enjoyed about the video and what you'd like to see more of on the channel. If you'd like to come chat more with me and other members of our little community here we have at Cinderful Gaming, you can do so on our Discord server, which is linked in the video's description. Also linked in the video's description is our Patreon and YouTube members, where you can go to help support the channel and allow us to keep doing what we're doing. As a special thank you to our Patreons and YouTube members, we'd like to give them all a shout out. So thank you to our Patreons: Christian Weir, Soren, Greenskins Gaming, Kenny Lauer, Outer and Shot First, Andrew Bowen, Nathan Fee, The Rising Ape, Q Dynamic, Anthony B, JJ Austrian, Average Wargamer, Domir, Mark Harvey, James Cater, Derek and Giapi390, and to our YouTube members: Green Roots Gaming, Kenton Young, Ronya, Lock Lorick, The Johnny84, David Ellsworth, Wolfric Nick, Broken Chef, Ariana Edwards, Revenar, Pink Nico Fire, Robin Mankiller, and Monty's Tabletop Terrain. And lastly, a special thanks to Lady Witchfox Art, who does all the amazing artwork you see on the channel. Thank you all for watching. Once again, stay safe, stay well, and most of all, keep fighting that war against the grey. Ciao for now, everyone.